The bucket list, though, to steal a phrase from the fire service, I look at it more as I'm part of a bucket brigade, right? As I fill my bucket, I get to pour that into the next bucket, and so on and so on. I get to share these experiences with my wife and my kids and my friends. And I get as much enjoyment, if not more, as a part of that bucket brigade.
Welcome to the Crossing It Off podcast, where we believe living with intention through a bucket list lifestyle is a great way to bring yourself personal joy. As you are crossing items off your list, you're actually filling up your bucket. The more items you cross off, the more joy gets added, until eventually your joy spills over into the lives of those around you. Now let's start crossing it off together. This time I'd like to welcome my bucket list storyteller. His name is Shannon Hankel, and he describes himself as humble, a dad, a husband, and very charismatic. So Shannon, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so tell our listeners, what did you cross off your bucket list?
Well, I ran my hands through the sky wing walking.
Wow. Okay. I have only met one other person that has done this. So I have a lot of questions.
All right.
So what was it about wing walking that you said, "Oh, I've got to put this on my bucket list. I'm gonna go do this at some point"? What was going on in your life? Why did you make that choice?
I think a long time ago, there was two things I wanted to accomplish, and that was I wanted to run my hands through the sand at the bottom of the ocean and run my hands through the clouds. And about 8 years ago, this came across the computer, and I'm like, there it is, right there.
So why did it take 8 years if you saw it 8 years ago? And I know you just did this. So
Yeah, I think it's just it's scheduling, it's time, money. It's a lot of scheduling.
Yeah,
to work around. So finances and time. I got a herd of kids and a wife, and we're super active. And I think where I made my investment each year was my family. And
right.
It was almost it's an investment in both financially and time. And I always felt like my investment was better suited for my family. And it wasn't until my wife really encouraged me to just do it.
Okay,
And without her encouragement, I'd probably be waiting another year.
Yeah.
So we did it.
That brings me to my next question. So when you told people, I mean, for me, 8 years is a long time to maybe share this with people and get people to try to talk you out of it. So what was the response of your wife, your kids, family, people you work with when you said you wanted to do this?
Yeah, my wife, we've been married for several years, and I think over time she's gotten to know me that she just rolls with the punches. I don't have any bigger supporter in my life than my wife. We both kind of push each other's limits and trying new things. And I think she was a little apprehensive, a little nervous, but completely supported me. But I had sent an email out to about 400 coworkers to see if someone wanted to go up with me. Resounding no. Resounding no takers.
Or that could just be the normal response to emails these days. But yes, I'm sure that people were hesitant.
No, I got a lot of responses.
Oh,
but
good.
They were, are you nuts? No way. But yeah, so no takers on that.
And how'd your
surprising in my industry? I work with a lot of folks that are, adventurous, and yeah. So it was a solo flight.
Okay. How'd your kids respond?
Well, we're going to take my son up next year.
Whoa. How old is he?
He'll be 18. So you have to be 18. He's 100% on board. So next year we'll make another trip up.
Okay. So walk us through the process of how this comes to be. Where do you find the plane, the service, and how do you prepare for actually getting there and doing this?
Well, it really started about that 8 year ago mark, and I'm not even sure how I came across. I mean, it was skydiving. I had done some skydiving, and I saw a YouTube clip, and I started researching. And at the time, the company was a different name, and it's the only place in North America, and from what they said, the only place in the world that does this as a activity. unless you're training to do it as a like a career or a stunt
Right.
pilot or something. So, every month I'd be watching YouTubes, looking at their website, emailing back and forth, and then again, when my wife said, this is the year you need to do it this year. It was a simple email. Told them I was interested. They sent me some information as to why I shouldn't, uh, and because there's a lot of limitations to physically and mentally, really, to do
Uh-huh.
this. So they send a lot of, hey, these are the reasons you shouldn't do it, and yeah, I just gave them a date range, and they're like, "Come on up, we got a spot for you."
Wow. That's simple. I
What
mean,
was that? It was a simple email.
right.
And then just kind of reading through, and I'd watched a lot of their videos, so I knew somewhat what to expect.
Right.
Yeah, and then you show up in the morning and sign a lot of waivers.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and then you practice all morning long from about 8 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon. You're practicing getting out of the cockpit and climbing up onto the top wing. So it's very choreographed on all your steps, right? Every
Right.
step has to be precise, and you're tethered to a pretty lightweight wire. And you just get out of the cockpit and you climb up to the top wing, and then you seatbelt yourself in. So there's one seatbelt that goes around a pole. But what they mention, but boy, until you experience it, is the wind.
Hmm.
They climbed about 3,500 feet, and there's quite a bit of wind from the prop and just from the speed at which they're flying. And then you practice going on the bottom wing, and on the plane, the wings are made out of canvas, so there's very, very precise. You have to tiptoe with the wind about 80, 90 miles an hour. You're trying to tiptoe across this wing to get into position. So yeah, that was probably the biggest surprise.
And when you say you're practicing with the plane on the ground, not moving.
That's correct. Yeah, yeah. You do
Okay.
that all morning, as many times until you feel comfortable. You're strapped in the seat. They show you the choreograph on how to climb up to that top wing, how to seatbelt yourself in, and then how to get back down. And then it's really noisy when you're up there, so everything's hand signals, or they'll make the plane go left to right, kind of wag the wings a little bit
Okay.
to get your attention. And then
So,
and then you go to the bottom wing, you do that, you practice that a few times, and then they get you geared up, and you're off.
so you're really in control of like saying, okay, we're moving forward in this process. At any point during the day, you could have said, no, I'm out, but you just kept going.
Yeah, so they say that there's a healthy amount of people who get there, and just during practice, that getting up on the wing, they're like, no, this isn't for me. And then there's people who will get up in the cockpit, and there's hand signals like, if you're not going to go, you're not going to go, right? So there's people who
Uh-huh.
get up there, and they're like, this isn't my day. I'm not going to do it. Which is it's a reasonable decision.
Sure, sure. Do you get a refund though if you say no? That's my question.
I didn't ask. So yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah. So you finally feel like you're comfortable enough during the practice. You say,
Yeah.
yeah, to go. You get in the cockpit and the plane starts, taking off from the runway. What are you feeling at that moment before you're actually in position to do this? How are you are you excited? Are you nervous? What's going through Shannon's head?
Pretty level headed. I thought it was great. I thought that they fly out over the ocean. You're up in Squam, which is the kind of that northern part of Washington across from Victoria. They fly you over the ocean, and I just thought it's just the flight itself was a joy. I wasn't nervous. There was no adrenaline. It was just kind of business.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to do it, and I think in my career, the one thing that I have maybe not mastered, but I'm really good at, is controlling the emotions.
Mm,
And this was a situation where I just needed to be level headed and enjoy what I was doing, and look around. And that was one thing that
mm.
I told myself that, boy, I just need to make sure I keep my head up and look around. Um,
And you get to the point where, okay, they give you the hand signal, it's time to go. Walk us literally, I guess, through that process of getting up into that harness and that safety rig on top of the wing.
well, you're seat belted in the front seat of the biplane, so the pilot's sitting behind you. Take your seatbelt off. You have to click it behind you, so the seatbelt has to be fastened after you leave the cockpit or before you leave the cockpit. So you fasten that. You step on your seat, and then it's a series of steps from stepping onto the windshield of the pilot's seat, then onto the kind of fuselage of the plane. You work your way up to the wing, and there's some guide wires that you have to kind of turn sideways and squish yourself through. And then there's a pole that sticks straight up from the top wing, and you lean up against that pole, and there's a seatbelt that's buckled. You reach behind yourself, you unbuckle that, and it's just one seatbelt that goes around your waist. You make sure that's real tight, and you give them a thumbs up, and that's it.
Hey, bucket listeners, it's Roger, host of the show. I just want to say thanks for all those that have been sticking with the show during my time of healing. If you didn't know, I suffered a stroke in July of 2023 and have been on the mend ever since. I appreciate everybody that stuck with me as we've gone from 2 episodes to 1 episode a week and dropping an older episode to fill in that gap. So many of you have asked how I'm doing and how you can help. My sister has created a GoFundMe account for me as I'm unable to do my regular job that usually pays for my ability to do podcasting. So if you'd like to learn more about how I'm doing and ways that you could possibly help, please go to the show notes and find the GoFundMe page listed there under resources for Roger. Thank you so much for sticking with the show, and let's get back to another great bucket list story.
Then he starts his routine, which we're about 3,500 feet, and he goes straight up until he stalls, and I think they call it a deadhead or something. So he'll go up until he just about stalls. He'll bring the plane sideways, and he goes straight down towards the ocean. And I think he said you're about 120, 130 miles an hour, and
Wow.
he'll pull into a big loop. And he described it as about 3 Gs a pull when he pulls into that loop, and he'll do a loop, and then coming out of the loop, he'll start doing some barrel rolls, so side to side.
This is
Yeah, you
like
just have
going on
to.
a roller coaster up in the air. It's like you're in a stand-up roller coaster.
Yeah, the feeling was quite a bit different than the roller coaster because besides that G coming out of that bottom loop, it was pretty smooth.
Uh-huh.
You really didn't need to hold on because it's kind of pushing you back into that bar. Yeah, it was real smooth. So
So
you don't get that those butterflies
right.
like the dropping in a roller coaster.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I need to go back to because I can't wrap my head around this one seatbelt. Do you have a harness on that the seatbelt connects to? I mean, like, or is it just literally one strap seatbelt?
One strap around your waist.
Oh,
Now you have a harness on under that, and there's a real small cable that goes from that harness to the side of the plane. So in the event that you fall off the plane, at least you'll be dangling under the plane.
oh yeah, sure, no problem.
And I think his response was, "We'll land in a field. Lift your feet."
Pull a Flintstones and run real fast.
Yeah. Now,
Uh,
now, to the credit, the folks that run this operation, safety wise, they're spot on. I don't think they've ever had an accident. They're very safety conscious. But I did pose that question: what if I slip? And he said, "Oh, you'll be dangling under the plane."
wow. Okay, I need to gather my senses about this. Uh, so you've done it, right? He's done his routine,
Uh-huh.
and then you have to crawl back in, or do you just stay on top until you land until he
No.
lands?
So the reason they don't take off or land is because most plane crashes or accidents occur during takeoff and landing.
Mm.
So they want you back in the cockpit. So you undo your seatbelt, then you buckle it back behind you because they don't want it flapping. You work your way down to the cockpit, and then he will work his way gaining altitude again. And then he gives you the go on get, and you crawl back out of the cockpit, and you tiptoe across the bottom wing where there's a like a broomstick with with padding on it, and that's connected right in the middle of the cross wires of the between the top and the bottom wing. And you work your way across the wing, and you hop onto that pole. You lay flat on that pole, and you just leg lock the back of it. So the only thing that's holding you is your ankles on the back of the pole, and then he'll go through those same, and that pole is actually out over the front wing, so you're you're out a couple feet in front of the plane on this pole. And then he'll go through the same stunts. So he does the climb, he stalls, comes back down, loop, barrel rolls. He does that multiple times. Yeah, and then you're done with that. You tiptoe across the wing. I stood on the wing for a few minutes and talked with him as he was flying, and then got back in the cockpit and back home.
Did you have radio headsets to communicate, or were you just screaming real loud?
I just yelling real loud.
Okay.
Yeah, I was pretty close to
Wow.
his head, so I kind of poked my head into where he was. Yeah, just told him it was great, thank you, great experience. And then then we got back in the cockpit and landed.
So when you got to the ground, finally back on Earth, and
Yeah.
you're out of this rig of, and doing this thing, how were you feeling when you were done? What was the emotions or thoughts that were going through your head when you were back walking on the ground?
Yeah. Check. What's next?
Okay.
Right. So, it was great. Right. It was, it was dumb. It was so great. Right. It was great. But yeah, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what else? Right. That's my son. You saw it, do you want to do it? And he's like, heck yeah, I'm all in. And right. Then I'm thinking about, all right, we gotta get back to town because we got a rodeo to go to. Right. So
If you were at a Starbucks sitting outside and talking about this with your son, and somebody sitting at a table next to you and says, "Oh my gosh, I've thought about doing that, or I've thought about crossing that off my bucket list," what's like the one thing you would say to them that they've got to do? If you said to them, "Oh, if you're going to do it, you got to do X," what's the X?
oh man, I don't think there is an X. I think just go do it. Right.
Okay.
There's nothing magical, right? Anyone can do it. I mean, if you're physically able to do it, right? There's some limitations on, just being able to pull yourself up on that wing. But yeah, I don't think I think anyone's capable of doing it. So do it. Just go do it. You won't regret it, right? We've done a lot of adventures, and man, my only regret is looking back, not doing something. But yeah, it's easy peasy.
So you said, what's next? What is next? What's the next thing you want to cross off your list?
Yeah, well, down there's a bungee jump. That's what I'd love to do. Uh, but I got to run that by the CEO.
There you go.
Right? She's a little bit more hesitant of me doing the bungee, but it's a 300-foot bungee jump, and I think it's the tallest in North America.
Where's it
Um,
located?
it's down by Crooked River, down Redmond area. So I like to do that. I at work I was involved in a motor vehicle accident that resulted in some fractures and some other, you know, little little injuries, and so we're trying to evaluate whether that, is the wisest choice to
Hmm.
step off a 300-foot bridge.
What's the reason why you want to do that? Step off a 300-foot bridge.
I just looked fun because I haven't done it. I think that's the biggest reason. I just haven't done it. So I always joke around with my kids about be a jack of all, don't need to be a master of anything, right? Just be a jack of all. Just try as many things in your life as you can try, and don't worry about mastering anything, right? You'll find that one thing someday that you want to master, but just try. Just get out.
Yeah, you can't. You
Don't
can't.
make excuses. Just try. Just try as many sports. Try as many activities. Just travel and be a jack of all.
Yeah, you can't find that thing if you're not looking.
Yeah.
So trying everything is the looking process. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
And I don't think I'm not necessarily looking for that adrenaline or that. I just want to try something new. The bucket list, though, to steal a phrase from the fire service, I look at it more as I'm part of a bucket brigade, right?
Mhm.
As I fill my bucket, I get to pour that into the next bucket, and so on and so on. I get to share these experiences with my wife and my kids and my friends, and I get as much enjoyment, if not more, as a part of that bucket brigade. And sometimes it takes, for me, initiating, hey, look at that. That was easy. What are you going to do? What are we going to do next? And I think sometimes that taking risk is contagious, right? A little bit. And Stephen King said, get busy living or get busy dying. That's kind of our mantra. Like let's just get busy, do stuff.
Yeah. What's your why? And for me, I say this exact same thing as you did, just in a little bit different way. But I talk about in my bucket list conversations about how you're not really emptying your bucket, but you're filling it up. And when you fill it up, it spills over into the lives of those people around you. Because if you're using a bucket list to bring yourself joy, then that joy should be, again, infectious and spread. So I totally get it. Shan, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. And I hope that the CEO gives the okay for you to the green
I,
light to make that jump. And if I have a chance to meet her at some point, maybe this weekend or something, I don't know.
I think so. Yeah. Well,
Then
when
I'll
I
talk
asked
her into
her,
it.
what's next, and I think her comment was, "Mama's gonna go buy herself some shoes. That's what's next."
Yeah, the rewards for being supportive are good.
Yeah.
Shannon, thanks for sharing your story with us.
Yeah, you bet. Have a great day. Thanks.